I'll just say this about Jen. I'm really excited that she's at Aflac because with the dynamic, smart, innovative disruptor that she is, I certainly don't want to be competing against her. So, Jen Daniel.
Thank you. Need some stuff for me? Thank you. I was going to play my own walk-up music because I kind of like to dance, but I figured it might be too early for that. So very, very excited to be here with all of you. Huge thank you to Steel Benefits. I had the honor of having dinner with them last night, and y'all are really lucky to work with that company. Just the family atmosphere, the way that they treat their customers, just the way they interact together. I was jealous. I'm like, can I be a Steel? I want to be adopted. But wonderful company. Thank you all for having me. Very excited to be here. This is my favorite audience to talk to. I was telling Wester, I'm like, I usually talk to brokers and they're not all that friendly, but HR people are so nice. They're so nice. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being nice. He asked me, he said, well, we're having at the NCAA Hall of Fame. Can you bring up your basketball history? I'm like, oh, that's a lot of history. So I thought I would talk about change. And this is change. So there you have Jenny Stanton, which was my high school picture, and played basketball in high school. And I grew up in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, so I'm a Midwest girl through and through. And we made it to state tournament, first time in high school history. We didn't win, but we made it there. So that was fun. And then I moved on to play at Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa. And it was funny. So I was recruited a little bit in high school, but not really until after the state tournament. And so I got back and I had the scholarship offer and I told my friends, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to Drake. And they're like, oh my God, you're going to Duke? I'm like, yeah, no, Drake. And they're like, where's that? I'm like, Iowa. And they're like, oh, it wasn't nearly as sexy as Duke was going to be, but it was Drake. So, and then fast forward to today, that's our son, our youngest one. He plays at University of Northern Iowa. So we've had the basketball history. Y'all, so I'm explaining why I say y'all, because I used to say you guys, but my daughter's like, Mom, you can't say you guys anymore. So I'm trying to transition. I'm from Iowa, but I say y'all. But I told myself, like, maybe I'll get on my uniform, my old Drake uniform. Oh, no. That did not fit anymore. So, but in between playing college basketball and now, I taught step aerobics, remember? Up, up, down, down. Yeah, you guys did that? No step aerobics fans? Yeah, forever. But now I'm just, work out and do that kind of stuff. So the point here is, change happens for all of us. It definitely happens in our industry. We're seeing a lot of change, a lot of growth. And so I just wanted to share some of the trends that we've uncovered. One of my favorite parts of my job is I get to go to industry events. I get to hear experts, and I love the futurists, the people who are talking about what's happening, what's coming. Because in your role, that's what you have to, you're not only solving all today's problems, you're trying to solve for tomorrow's problems as well. So I thought I'd share some nuggets. I'm happy to share these studies with you so you don't have to take pictures. So if anybody wants them, I'll send them over to Wes and Katie, and they can get them to you, and that way you don't have to try to take pictures of the stat slides. But let's just talk about how work's been redefined in this past couple of years, right? So COVID obviously has impacted your worlds tremendously. And it's not necessarily anymore about where we're going to go to work, but it's the job that we're doing. And so can people do, and I know a lot of you are public sector, so people have to be in the place where they do the job. But that has definitely transitioned the way, or transformed the way that we as an insurance company look at the products and services that we provide, as well as servicing our clients and our HR partners as well. So that is the hybrid workplace. Are people in the office? Are they out of the office? Is it both? It's very interesting, and that leads into what the expectations are for employees. Some of them, and that's generational, I'm finding, but some of them only want to be at home, some of them want to be in the office, some want a little bit of both. I think what are you seeing? A little bit of both is kind of what people would prefer if they could. That's what we tend to see in the market. But that middle lower one is something that workplace benefits versus employee benefits. And that's a trend, and that's something that we're seeing people switch to because they're saying, all right, it's no longer necessarily just employees that we're having to take care of. We might have gig workers, we might have contract workers. So how do we provide benefits, provide a digital experience for that entire realm of people? Because it's no longer necessarily just employees. And then digital expectations. Y'all, I keep saying I'm gonna stop. You are in great hands. When you talk about Celerix, and I've known Ruthie for a while, I've worked with Celerix for a long time, competed against them when I was at Business Solver, one of the best platforms out there. I've been at Aflac now for 4 years, and our team manages all the tech platforms. So we work with all of our brokers, and we're constantly, learning about what's happening, the latest and greatest. And I will tell you, there's not one thing that we've asked Solerix to do that they couldn't do. So great platform, cutting edge. Their founder, Lyle, is fantastic. He's on all of the industry events. So you combine Solerix with West Steel, and if you're maximizing those, you're in really good hands. So I'm off my soapbox there, but I had to share that. But digital expectations are changing. And so you think about what's coming next. How do we adapt? How do we hit people at home, at work, on their phones? You need a tech partner that can do that. That's thinking, okay, how do we bring in 401k? How do we look at that entire experience for those employees? Digital has to change. So I was laughing, Wes, when you said, I used to bring paper forms. My very first job at Principal, I was there longer than 10 years, but I'm not going to age myself, although I did with my son's picture. But it was enrollment meetings. I got to travel all over the world, advertising major going into insurance, by the way. But that's what happens in insurance. But anyhow, I got to travel all over the US, do these face-to-face. I loved it. And that's what made me realize that insurance isn't necessarily about that. It's helping people. So I sat down and did a 401k meeting with a gentleman, and he was probably late 40s. And he said, no one had ever explained it to me this way. No one ever sat down. He's like, now I understand what I need to do, how much money I have, how much money I don't have. And he was almost in tears. And I was like, and here I am, 24 years old, telling this guy how to invest his money. But it hit me so hard that that's what this is about, right? From an insurance, working in this field, all the things that you guys do, it's about helping people and putting the right tools in their hands to do that. But back to my story is, yes, we started on paper forms. And it was, all right, everybody, pull out your group universal life form and let me help you fill it out. And we've come so far. And I just want to share some of the trends that we're seeing going forward. The predictions in here come from a LIMRA study. If you're not familiar with LIMRA, it stands for Life Insurance Management Research, Association. But they do a lot of studies within our industry and share that data. So that's where some of this is going to come from. So prediction number one, the workforce is changing, and then we as employers really have to adapt to that. So what does that mean? Somebody said this, and I loved it. There's war in talent, and talent won. Isn't that the truth? I mean, they've been driving kind of what's happening for they, as in talent, we're all talent, but really what's happening in our industry and your companies for the past couple of years. And it's definitely made an impact on how we look at the world from an insurance company, how West Steel supports, I keep saying West Steel, Steel Benefits, supports, you all, and it's something that we're gonna have to, it's going really quickly and it's gonna continue to advance really quickly. Curious on your thoughts on this stat. How many of you think that by 2026, 50% or less will be true employees? Yeah, I agree with you. But I think there will be some. I think there's definitely a shift, maybe less in the public sector space, but across the US, they're saying, you know what, yes, we are gonna see more gig workers. We're gonna see more people who are saying, I don't wanna be an employee for one employer. I wanna work for multiple employers. I wanna have my own time. I wanna be in Chile and log in and do my work. And so this is something that we have to at least think about is if it's a prediction, it's a trend, what does that mean in your organization? Is that something you're looking at, considering? Is it going to be an impact? If so, what are you going to do about it from a benefits perspective? So employers tend to be more accepting of this. Perfect example, when I worked at Business Solver, located in Des Moines, they had a few different locations, but you are in the office. This is pre-COVID. You are in the office. If it's a snow day and you can't make it in, you take vacation. I mean, there was no hybrid, no remote work, no nothing. And now they're 100% remote pretty much. So, I mean, COVID has forced our hand there, but it's also shown us how we can be successful in that environment. So employers are starting to say, okay, it doesn't maybe have to be a full-time employee that does this job. Where else could we get this work done? Who else could we hire? We're seeing a huge increase in those websites of like gig workers, right? Here, I can bid on a job. My daughter likes to do marketing. She's like, well, I'll just bid on these jobs, and I just do this on the side, and I have my full-time job and my gig work, and she's perfectly happy doing that. So then it's about how do we provide benefits for those folks? We've worked so hard to get to group benefits, employer-level benefits. Well, now do we need to look at individual benefits? So how do we get those gig workers what they need? Because I have a lot of friends that are doing that, and that's their number one worry. I don't have health insurance, John. I don't have insurance. So what do I do? So as an industry, from insurance perspective, we're looking at that saying, how do we provide benefits to those folks? Because should it come from the employer? Probably not, because that's really hard to do. But can we leverage platforms to get it to them? Like, can we, there's got to be an answer there. Again, so that's a prediction that we're watching, because those tech platforms are saying, okay, so we have our full-time employees, we have part-time employees, we have retirees, and now we have this other category, which is contract workers. And with all the movement between companies, a lot of the platforms are saying, we need to help employees offboard. So you have them on board, they have their benefits, but then when they leave, are there some benefits they want to keep? How do we make that easier? Because in the past, it was kind of like, done. And carriers, if you want to call these people and try to retain them and get them individual coverage, go ahead. But from a platform perspective, we're not going to do that. Now they're realizing, maybe there's something there. How do we engage those employees beyond even just this employer relationship? So there's some fun stuff there. I read an article, and I pulled it from, I stole this, but people are going to resign. They're either resigned to staying or they're going to re-sign. I love these statistics. I thought they were very eye-opening. So people are jumping ship, right? And it's 2 in 5 people, though, that left are like, ooh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. They regret leaving. So that's the boomerang. We're going to see a ton of boomerangs, I think, coming back. The second one there is it's the, you guys are in that every single day when people come and say, I wasn't even looking, but they came after me and I can't not take this money, I can't not take this opportunity. So you look at that stat, they went from not thinking about quitting to quitting in 30 days. How do we handle that? How do we retain them? How do we keep them? How do we not let that happen? 1 in 5 weren't looking for a job, but 20% of those have already boomeranged back. So what's your boomerang program? What are you doing to try to stay in touch with people that leave? Is there a way to stay engaged with them? Is there a newsletter? Is there a website? Do you have a blog? Do you have some way to say, okay, understand you need to go, if you want to keep them. There might be some you're like, out. But if that's somebody you want to retain, then what are you doing to just keep in touch? Reach out to them, see what's happening. There's definitely things that you can do there to engage those folks to see if maybe they will boomerang back. And then all of you and managers, after dealing with this, it's a big burden to bear because people keep coming in and I'm quitting, I'm leaving, I need more money, I need more this, I need more that. And managers are starting to say, me too. I can't do it anymore. I need a break. I need somebody to, to help me with this, or I'm going to go look somewhere else too because I just can't do it. And of all the people that work in companies, you all have so much on your shoulders from all different aspects. And so this is just one more thing. But I recently did this, and I jumped a slide, I skipped one. But this is important. So why are people leaving? And then why do they re-sign? So why are they coming back? So they asked managers, and then they asked the people themselves. Interesting, the differences, right? So number one is pay and comp, always pay and comp. I'm going to put benefits in that category too. But managers thought, it's got to be with COVID, it's got to be personal leave, family leave. We talked about, leave management. People need more flexibility there. That's got to be number 2. COVID precautions, and this is a little bit dated, but you had to come back in, you had to test or whatever those expectations were. Work-life balance, burnout, lack of career development opportunities, and then shorter commute. That's what managers thought. But then when they actually asked the employees, you can see the list is different. And yes, pay and comp still at the top, but the second one, I didn't feel valued or that I belonged. That one's easy to fix. That's culture. And two of their on that list, executive leadership, poor company culture, valued. That's not money, that's not benefits, that's not a better chair to sit in. That's cultural, that's making sure you're connecting with employees and helping your employees better manage, better executive leadership. A lot of it comes down to communication. So my daughter, I'm gonna get into her a little bit, but she works for a startup and she's 24, almost 25, and they recently had some shifts in the way that they were really leading their team. So she works for Carrot Fertility. She's a care navigator, so people call her to help them with their fertility plans. And they were just kind of taking calls while the company said, we're changing to shifts. So you're either gonna be 3 a.m. to 10, to whatever it was. And their whole team just blew up because these are all 24, 25, 26-year-olds, but they didn't tell them why. So these guys are like, oh my gosh, they're screwing us. Now we got to go to shifts. We got to. If they would have explained, we just took on 3 companies in China, and so we need to do, like, it just, that's an easy fix. And they recently had an offsite. They explained it, and now she's perfectly happy, which, whatever. But so those things, I say that because they can be fixed. And this is something that I recently did, hugely impactful. Again, I stole this from an article. But instead of waiting for people to leave and say, okay, let's sit down. Why are you leaving? All right, I'm sorry. We would like to have you come back. Let's do stay interviews. Let's flip it and ask people these questions. So I'd be curious if you decide to do this. I did not. I scheduled them with my team. I called them a stay interview, but I did not give them the questions in advance. And I toyed with which is better, because part of me wanted to get their gut reaction. But I think if I would have given them at least the last 2 questions, maybe, I could have gotten more in-depth answers, but very insightful. So sitting down and saying, okay, what drives you in your job? What makes you happy? That gets back to company culture. That gets back to leadership. It's interesting, the answers. So people on my team, I know what they do every day. I know what their job description is, but that wasn't necessarily what drives them. I was like, oh, okay, well, we need to get you engaged over here. We need to give you more opportunities to be in sales presentations, whatever it was that drives them. That was interesting. What do you want to learn? So how can we help you with development? What opportunities exist either inside our company, outside of our company? How do we give you opportunities to get better as a person, as an employee? And then these last 3 are tough. So why do you stay here? What makes you stay? And hopefully they say, culture, those types of things. But then why would you leave? If you left, what would be the reason you left? And money is usually the first one. But it's just, it made my team think, it made me think, it gave me development plans for them. And then that last one is, when was the last time you thought about leaving? And one gal on my team, it was like a month before. I was like, okay, let's figure this out. But and I asked them afterwards, I said, was that helpful? Was that intimidating? They said, no, it was awesome. No one asks us those questions. No one's digging in and really wanting to know what's important to me. Why do I stay and why would I leave? Because hopefully if you find out why they're going to leave, you can at least preempt that. And if it's somebody you really want to retain, okay, what do we need to provide to them? Because I took a lot of my findings to my leadership and said, this is what I need for my team. This is what we need to be successful. So still the idea if you think it'll work, but it was really good for us and our team. And I think it just helps with keeping the workforce engaged and happy. Next prediction, employers will expand benefit offerings. How many of you think you'll add more benefits in the next 5 years than you've had in the last 5? Ish, a couple, okay. So this is the study that LIMRA did, and you can see by the green boxes that a lot of employers are saying, yep, even if they already have 7 or more, they're still looking to add more benefits. And these might be more of the lifestyle benefits that Wes was alluding to. Your legal, your identity theft, fertility benefits, pet insurance. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they're adding the core medical, dental, vision, CI, accident, HI, but some of these lifestyle benefits. Personalization is becoming more and more important. So remember, I don't even know if it was 10 years ago, 5 years ago, it was marketplace. There's going to be marketplaces. We're going to have all these marketplaces. Well, guess what's coming back? Marketplaces. But it's employees are saying, you know what, I don't necessarily want just this. And now with 5 generations in the workforce, I can say that, they want different things. Your 55-year-old might want more vacation, better retirement, better 401k, really good medical, whereas your 26-year-old wants pet insurance, identity theft. My daughter would insure her dog before herself. It's just, they want different things. And they're more open to the identity theft, the legal, so it's ages and stages. If you have kids, if you don't have kids, if you have pets, you don't have pets, they want different things. So being able to offer more benefits is definitely a trend that we're seeing. And employees then get to pick. They can be voluntary. You don't have to pay for them, but making them available. So this just tells you about why employers are making that choice. So the first one is they're saying, you know what, we have to make changes because of the employee demographics. Whether it's we have the gig workers, whether we have both, the 25-year-olds and the 65-year-olds, we have to make changes and offer a unique variety of benefits for that whole spectrum of people. The second one is employees will expect more variety. So they're going to come to us and they're going to say, you know what, you should be offering these. We hear about it in the marketplace. My friend has them. Why don't we have pet insurance? And then the third one is employees will have more impact. So think about those stay interviews. If they say, why don't we have accident insurance, or why don't we have legal insurance? Celerix actually has a tool. If you haven't used it, they can do a survey. You can do a survey in Celerix that says, okay, do we have the right mix of benefits? Are there other benefits you'd like to see? I highly recommend focus groups if you can do them. Get employees to talk amongst themselves. Instead of just standing up there at annual enrollment saying, all right, here's what we picked, see what they actually want, because that does make a difference. So this is also in the study. And so it's the benefits that employers think employees want, or their workforce wants, versus what employees actually want. Definitely some similarities, but it's interesting that you can see, long-term disabilities on their career development, physical health wellness programs. It's a little bit different. And so how do you find out what your workforce wants unless you ask them? And you have the tool to do it. It's so easy. And I recommend people do that like now, so you can plan for annual enrollment if you have a 1/1 annual enrollment, but also post-enrollment. You get done enrolling those benefits, let's do a survey and say, how was the experience? What can we do better? Are there other benefits that you'd like to see next year? Because it's fresh, they're in the system. And if you're maximizing BenSelect and you're using the tool the way it's been designed, you can engage them all year round. It doesn't have to be just once a year. So I thought this was interesting to share those stats too. Number 3, brokers. So Steel Benefits. They are your best back pocket tool. And they have so many resources. Obviously, the stats up there were very impressive. But are you leveraging all that they bring to the table? Are you maximizing what they can do for you as your broker? Lots of really good information that they can bring to the table. When you go to events, and I'll talk to brokers and I'll go to industry events like, oh, brokers are going to go away. We don't need them. We can do it all online. It's actually the opposite. We're seeing our clients say, I need my broker now more than ever, because they're not just the benefits guy, right? It's not just a guy, but they're doing so much more for you and for the rest of their clients. And so just like coaches, so I'm bringing it back to basketball, that game has changed so much since I played many, many, many moons ago. But the coaches now, you have, recruiting is different. The way that they play the game. People always ask, what position did you play? Post player. I was a forward. I was, guard. And now it's, it's 5 out. Everyone's a guard. Everyone shoots. My son's 6'7". He's out there shooting 3-pointers. I'm like, shouldn't you be a post? Shouldn't you be down there like posting up? Nope. So that game's changed. Then you add in name, image, likeness. You add in, we could spend all day. If you want to talk about basketball, we can talk later. But coaches have had to change. Brokers have changed. They've changed their game, right? It's no longer just let's figure out which medical plan is right for your company, but it's which ancillary benefits are right, which technology is right. Hey, by the way, do you know what's going on in legal and compliance and what's happening there and you have to be aware of? Do you know how to maximize the technology that you're using? Here's all these new benefits. There's a breakout session today to talk about 3 new benefits that maybe you aren't familiar with. So we're finding that employers rely more and more on their brokers than less. And I just, working with Steel Benefits, what they bring to the table is fantastic. And I encourage you to definitely leverage them, leverage the Celerix platform, because that's what you pay them for and that's what they're there for. Prediction 4, personalization and education with benefits. So it kind of gets back to that earlier point of more benefits, more options. But employees want to say, okay, let's put it into perspective. Anybody use Amazon? Okay. But that's what we expect, right? I want you to tell me exactly what I should buy based on what I've already bought. That's what we want. I want to be able to enroll in benefits. Hey, Alexa, enroll me in benefits. Wouldn't that be amazing? It'll happen. It will absolutely happen someday. It'll be a while. But that's what employees expect. They want that level of personalization. You know enough about me that you should be able to tell me exactly what to enroll in. And it's interesting, again, generational. So I'm going to compare my daughter to my mother, which would kill my daughter. But anyhow, she's almost 25. At that age, they're so used to putting everything out on the internet, out in the ethosphere, that for somebody to ask her for all of that information, she's like, yeah, okay, here you go, because I'm going to benefit from it. Plus, it's already out there and she knows it. Whereas my mom, wait, they want my address. I can't put my address in. I'm like, Mom, they have your address. It's everywhere. It's okay. But she's paranoid. She's scared to put anything online. And so we have to realize that the way they enroll, the way we communicate with those different generations, we need to adapt to that as an industry. So again, I'd love your opinion on this. So read the tagline at the bottom. So challenge to understand benefits. These are people who said they understand their benefits somewhat or not at all. So that's the group we're working with. These aren't people who say, yeah, I got it. But the first one, insufficient time to make informed decisions. How many of you give your people a day before annual enrollment? No, you communicate. So that one I laugh at. Because I'm like, okay, well, that means you didn't prioritize. It's just like working out, right? I don't have time to work out. Yes, you do. You're just not prioritizing it. Let me ask you a question. What do you think is the average amount of time, and this is across all platforms that we work with, that employees spend if you do a full positive enrollment enrolling in benefits each year? Average amount of time. I wish I had a prize. I don't have a prize. Somebody give me a number. 2 hours? 10 minutes? 30 minutes? 18 minutes. Think about the money they're spending in 18 minutes. So their own money is probably maybe $2,000 to $4,000. Your money as an employer with the medical is probably 10 to 14. If I spent that kind of money in 10 minutes, my husband would be so furious with me. I mean, that's like buying a car in 10 minutes. Like, okay, or 18 minutes. So we spend more time picking out the right shoes online or buying a car or planning a vacation than we do something that is so, so important. And actually, COVID has helped this. So even last year, that number went up. And whether it's because we have amazing decision support tools that are helping employees through that process, or employers are saying, you know what, this stuff matters. Like, I need to know if I go into the hospital what I'm gonna have to pay, what's covered, what's not covered. So from that aspect, COVID has actually been good because employees, I hope you're seeing that, but we're definitely seeing that, are paying more attention to, all right, what's really covered by this? Do I have the right coverage? Am I insured the right way? So complexity of benefits, ineffective communication, that one I go back to the Engage tool within Celerix and just engaging people year round. Because if you wait until, 10 days before annual enrollment and just say, hey, we have these great new benefits versus all year round saying, okay, do we have the right mix? Are you using your benefits? That's the biggest thing. Y'all don't want people signing up for benefits and then not benefiting from them, right? They're paying for them. Let's get those claims, filed. Too many options, no access to good advice, which that one's kind of an excuse if they're not using the tool because there's great advice out there. And I'm so excited to hear about Perky. I know a little bit, but I'm excited to hear more. But the decision support tools that are out there, wow, they're really, really taking advantage of just what's like industry averages as well as information about me that they have access to, as well as about what I enrolled in, as well as my claims that I've filed in the past. And they're working to give employees that Amazon-like experience to say, you know what, based on you and everything we know about you, here's what we recommend. The employee can still pick and choose, but that's what employees want. They want that kind of, it's almost like an enrollment counselor, but you don't have to have the face-to-face meetings, but we're helping people pick. So the challenge of understanding benefits, I think if people truly care, there's tools out there and you all have access to those for your employees. Okay, this is Marin. She's my girl. So Marin, she's 24. She's on her 3rd job in 2 years. She's a dog mom, very proud. She also doesn't use paper towels. And I think she's a stud X-Division 1 soccer player. But what Marin wants is very different than what other people want. So when you think about customizing communication, Marin is a dog. She has her phone. She has TikTok, as they all do, and she has a laptop. What Marin does not have is a printer, a checkbook, or an office. And I know this because her phone broke and she had to get on an airplane. She's like, Mom, how do I print my boarding pass? What do? I don't have a printer, which you don't even think about, but they don't. She doesn't have a checkbook. So you think about that generation and what they expect is if it's not on that phone, if it's not on that computer in your pocket, you can't do it. If that phone breaks, they are totally lost as far as how to handle things. But we have to find a way as an industry to get the right benefits to this group, to get the way they want to receive it, and then on the back end, from an insurance carrier perspective, we are looking at how do we pay claims fast and easy on that phone. How do we leverage the data that we have so they don't have to go back and forth with the doctor? God forbid we ask them to fax something. She asked me that. She's like, do they really exist, fax machines? I was like, well, yeah, kind of. But it's, you look at that generation, they have very different expectations. And that's who's coming into the workforce. And so as an industry, as HR professionals, we kind of got the other groups down a little bit, but this one's different. Yeah, it's fun. It's a lot of interesting conversations that we have. Night fun, little bounces in, get it, basketball. I did not do this presentation. I did it, but I had somebody in my team, and she was awesome. So she made it bounce. But benefits are becoming individualized. Employers are saying, yep, you can enroll in your computer, so getting rid of the paper forms. So I had a group of brokers, 6 months ago together, and I asked them, are people still using paper? Why? And they said, yeah, they are. But they said a lot of it was just, smaller groups, or it didn't make sense to have technology, or they couldn't afford the technology. And that's where I think, Wes was talking about, it's great that you have Celerix if you're using it, and we're happy to help fund that. Carriers are willing to do that because it makes your lives easier, it makes our lives easier as well. So the digital enrollment meeting, whether it's face-to-face, obviously during COVID, we had virtual enrollment meetings. We had face-to-face one-on-ones with a counselor, but it was all via Zoom, and it worked just fine. And that comes back to, I think people are realizing that, all right, Zoom's okay. We can do it for meetings, we can do it for benefits. And then just that last column is, digital is the future. If we can't do it on that device in our pocket, don't do it. I'm at the point where y'all use Apple Pay. If I'm shopping and I get to the checkout and I can't Apple Pay with 2 little clicks, I don't buy it, because I have to get up, walk over to my purse, get out my credit card and put in a number. Heaven forbid. That's like back in the day with the clicker, right? With the remote, you had to stand up and turn the TV dial. Okay, I'm aging myself. But that's what people expect. It's all has to be digital. The whole experience has to be digital. And so one of my favorite events to go to every year, it's called InsurTech. It's out in Vegas, and it's all startups that are trying to solve problems in the insurance space. It is so fun because it's all of these innovative companies that have these brilliant ideas, and then we take them back to our really old insurance companies, like, hey, can we do this? Yeah, no. But we're going to. And that's where the disruption comes into play, is saying, we have to do this. We can't afford not to. And COVID, as awful and terrible and miserable as it was, has kicked us in the butt from that perspective. We have had to advance so much faster from a carrier perspective that I'm thrilled, because it's finally they're like, okay, we have to do this or we're not going to be in business. We have to become digitally enabled. And so, some of the tools, some of the reasons there obviously are the personalization. One of the big trends in the industry right now is claims adjudication. Is if, say employers are saying, all right, you have the medical data, why can't you help our employees file their claims for accident, or just automatically pay it? Automagically is my term. No one's really figured it out, so that will be a trend that we will see in the future, is there'll be tools that will say, okay, if I go to the hospital because I was in a car accident, I broke my leg, and I have accident insurance, just pay it, because I filed, and that employees have that perception that all benefits should work like medical, that they shouldn't have to file a claim for CI, accident, and HI. I don't file a claim for medical. I don't file a claim for dental. You just pay them. So that's where the industry's going. We're not there, but we're looking at it. There's lots of startups that are saying, okay, how do we solve for that, which is going to be so awesome. And it will help employees use the benefits that they have. And so utilization will go up, which is a good thing for everybody. All right, so in summary, I didn't even check time. Am I okay? I just keep talking? Okay. So kind of what I will leave you with are these thoughts of how to really maximize, I thought I typoed, the game, your game with Steel benefits. So system of record maximization, if you're using Celerix, I do sit down with the Steel team once a year and do an audit twice a year. And when I say an audit, I'm saying, are you maximizing all the tools that you can within that system? Coming from the Ben admin space, I remember we would go to a finals meeting and we would sell this platform, and it was super sexy and it was super awesome. And then you get into the day-to-day and you're blocking and tackling. We got to get people enrolled, we got to make sure the payroll's right, and you forget about all of the other wonderful tools that system can do. So if you sit down once a year and you go through and say, okay, what else can we do? What else should we be using in this tool? I think you'll be amazed with the education, the year-round engagement, the reporting. that will give you a really good insight into what people are signing up for, what they're not signing up for, the survey tools. So really maximize the tool for everything that you want it to do. Open enrollment services, knowing what's available in there to support open enrollment. So is it call center? Is it, and not just within the tool, but within Steel Benefits as well. You know, making sure that they're there to support you, kind of like Wes was talking about, getting your benefits in the right order that make the most sense to employees. There's some things that you can do before open enrollment to really maximize the understanding and the way employees are hearing about the benefits. Benefits Engage, you're going to hear all about that later today. Consistent experience for everybody, so whether they're in the office, out of the office, remote, hybrid, how do you make sure they all have the same opportunity for enrollment? And that's where digital tools are hugely important. But pushing that communication out. So if you have face-to-face meetings, can you Zoom them? If you have, you know, call centers available, making sure everybody knows that that's available to them. So consistent experience across the board, leveraging those decision support tools, and then the analytics and planning. So just so you know, I'm telling all of the brokers to come to you and to look at your tools for analytics and planning. And I know that Steel Benefits does that, but that is a treasure trove of information in the Celerix platform, because you can see who's enrolling, who's not enrolling, who's using their benefits, who's not using them, who's engaging, who's not. And it's really good from like managing the benefits enrollment process. So if you have 3 locations and you go in there during annual enrollment, you can see that, hey, we've got really good enrollment at these 2, but no one's touched the system in this 3rd one. You can pick it. It's probably because the manager's not telling them or they're not communicating well enough. So you can go in and tell them, hey, you got to get some communication out there. Do we need to do a meeting? Why aren't your people enrolling? So maximize that system. Be in there, be comfortable with it, know what reports and analytics. And when you go to your board and you're defending the benefits that you're bringing to the table, you have charts and graphs and data that you can show them. You know what, employees want this. This is what they're asking for. This is the survey that we did. Or employees aren't signing up for this. You thought it was great, Mr. CEO, but no one wants it. You do, they don't. You know what I mean? There's just some really good analytics that make your job easier when you're taking that to the C-suite. So, in closing, this is my fam. This is me now. I ride my Peloton. If you're a Peloton fan, let's be friends. That's my little hashtag. You know, this, as you can tell, I'm very passionate about the industry. I'm passionate about helping people. I love the tech space. I think that it's definitely the future of where we're going. And you know, you have a great tool, a great partner in Celerix. You have a wonderful partner with Steel. Know that with Steel Benefits, just keep saying it. But know that as an industry, and I can say this because I have carrier partners, carrier friends that are at other carriers, we're all trying to figure out how do we advance faster, because we're behind. I mean, you look at other industries out, you know, whether it's retail or even P&C is ahead of where we are from a health and life perspective. We have a lot more regulations that are slowing us down, but we are full on accelerator to say, how do we make this a more digital experience? How do we bring better solutions to you, our clients, but ultimately to employees, and make sure that they are not just enrolled in the benefits, but they're actually using them. So that concludes my little talking remarks for today.